let's go. Okay, who should do the first round? Who should greet the listeners? You want to do that?
I think you should start. You're the famous guy, so.
Oh, I'm the famous guy. That's cool. That's a first.
Yeah.
Okay, so hi there and welcome to. Oh, great! It's another bass podcast, episode 1. Because the world needs more bass podcasts, we figured. So we decided to start one. Right.
Yeah, indeed. Since we're also very famous, I guess we should introduce ourselves.
Yeah, I think so too. My name is Erik. I play bass on YouTube and with a few different bands. I've been doing so for quite a few years now. Yeah, I think that summarizes everything about me, essentially.
Nice. My name is Samuel, but to keep it easy, say Sam, because Samuel sounds very stupid when you say it out loud every time. Been playing bass for about 25 years, since I was 10 years old. And I'm a nobody when it comes to being famous, but I've studied and I've learned a lot of bass during 25 years, so that's me, I guess.
Yeah, 25 years. You started when you were 10?
Yes.
And you were born in 86,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So technically 26 years since I just turned 36.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I consider myself starting when I was about 14 or something like that.
Yeah.
I started taking music lessons when I was about 12 or 13 or something like that, but I only played bass for like half an hour every week during the lessons. That was when I played bass, and but like the summer break between the 8th and the 9th grade, I got my first own bass, and you know how it is.
Yeah.
When you get your own instrument, you start playing a lot more. So that was what I did. So
nice.
So yeah. How did you start?
Well, I actually started playing drums initially, or I started playing piano when I was 7, and I started playing drums when I was 10. But drums were boring, and then I discovered Steve Harris of Iron Maiden, and I wanted to play bass. That's basically how I started. Because I was supposed to take drum lessons in the public county music school. But for some reason, my drum lessons and only my drum lessons were delayed by half a semester. So I was already way behind on drums.
Oh.
So then I took up the bass, and it stayed, I guess.
Yeah. Never looked back.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Oh, I can hear one of your cats in the background.
Yes, we like cats.
I figure it's going to be a lot of cats in this podcast as well.
Yes.
I showed Sam before we started that my cat took my chair before we. So I'm sitting on one of the hard and uncomfortable ones, and he's on the comfortable office chair.
Exactly.
So
influences. What are your influences mainly?
I guess we've been talking about this before, but Steve Harris is one of the big ones that we have in common.
Yeah.
I guess it's fair to point that one out.
Yeah.
I'm currently playing. I've got a bass in my lap, of course, and it's my Steve Harris Billy Sheehan tribute.
Nice.
Tribute bass, which is it's a mix of the wife and the Fender that Steve has been playing for all of these years. It's got the Steve Harris flat wounds on it, which are, they're kicking my ass, man. These strings. I picked up my Yamaha that I've been playing for, well, almost exclusively for 6 years now, and it was so easy to play. Because those are the round-on strings that I'm used to.
Yeah.
These are the flats, and on the Yamaha, the G string is a 43, and this one it's a 50. So there's no bending here. It's you have to use 2 hands to even move the string. But it's fun. It kind of forces me to play in a different way, I guess you could say.
Also got a bit of Phil Lynott thing going on with a mirror pickguard.
Yeah, exactly. Phil Lynott and who else? Yeah. Yeah, and Steve Steve had the black bass with a mirror pickguard, like around 80, 81. So I figured this is a good approximation of everything that has influenced me. But aside from Billy, we have of course. Oh, sorry. Aside from Steve, we of course have Billy Sheehan.
Yeah.
I always mispronounce his surname.
Yeah, same.
Sorry. Yeah. I guess it has to do with us being Swedes. I guess it's it makes sense to pronounce it that way. So, no offense meant at all, Billy. But yeah, Billy is a huge influence on me with the 3-finger technique and everything, and in his playing. And Brian Beller, the Aristocrats, and of course Lee Sklar has been a huge influence on me as well. And I thought about this a few days ago, and Paul McCartney, I spent quite a few years just learning Beatles songs.
Absolutely.
In my
Same.
early teens. So what about you, apart from Steve?
You mentioned a bit like about Paul McCartney, and my first musical love was the Beatles. I used to sit with a stereo with my bigger brother and just listening to endless Beatles songs, basically. And the funny thing about Beatles songs is like the mono mixes in the beginning were very funny, because if you panned to the left or the right, you could like almost solo the bass, or guitar or whatever. So you can almost listen to McCartney, and. Like I said, Steve Harris was the reason I picked up the bass. Honestly, one of my biggest influences on bass is Stevie Wonder. Like his synth bass lines, it's a huge inspiration for me. Like the way, like the groove, the timing, and like my biggest idol is Anthony Jackson on bass. Like it's hard to describe, but he's just like epitomizes. Like the ideal bass player. Like there's nothing flawed with what he does. Everything is perfection.
Amazing.
And like we were speaking about string gauges and like the flat wounds, Steve Harris flat wounds, so might as well do a segue to that. On my custom bass I used to own, my G string was a 32, I think.
Whoa.
It was very, very light. And honestly, like light versus heavy strings, I find in some ways that like a lighter string has better fundamentals, but a thicker string has like better overtones, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does. Actually.
And I don't know. I've always geared towards lighter strings. I use a 40 set usually if I play a 4-string. That feels like the proper way to play to me.
Okay, so like 40 to 100, right?
Yeah, like all or zeros.
Yeah.
And like influences, obviously I have to bring up John Mayung of Dream Theater. He was a big reason I like kept playing in my teen years. And in that way also obviously Geddy Lee, because Geddy Lee inspired John. So like I do a lot of octave playing just like they do. And like I use 2 fingers. I've always used 2 fingers, and when I was really young my bass teachers were very impressed of how the speed I had in my 2 fingers. They always thought I was playing with 3 fingers. And I've never used a 3-finger technique.
Never. Okay. Never even like attempted to.
I mean, I've attempted, because one of my bass teachers in high school was used 3 fingers, but he realized, well, Sam, you can play fast anyway, so you don't need it.
Do you use your thumb anything?
I do like the Anthony Jackson like muted palm mute thumb thing. Yeah, but other than that, it's mainly like finger style. I've literally tried to pick up, no pun intended, pick playing, but it just like never works for me.
No, I totally get, like in the studio I really enjoy playing with a pick. It kind of works there for me, but when I play live I just drop it. And like I've intended to do gigs with a pick sometimes, and it's never worked out for me. I mean, I guess it's just part of my nature. And speaking of like playing with your thumb, I've been doing a lot of the
the Harris.
The Harris, because we're doing a lot of I'm playing in an Iron Maiden tribute band, and we're doing a gig in 2 weeks, and we're doing well, spoilers, we're doing The Klansman, and we're doing Fear of the Dark, and there's a lot of just plucking like tips like that. And these strings, they've been killing my thumb. Like I've gotten such a huge callus on my thumb. It's crazy.
But does Harris play them with the thumb and like index like that?
Yeah, he does thumb and index like that, and he uses his thumb quite extensively during a lot of parts, like during that part.
Oh
in
and like
Ancient
Blood
Mariner.
Brothers and everything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of thumb and index finger playing there, but like for that part in Rime of the Ancient Mariner, it's just thumb going down. I'm doing it like thumb, index, middle.
Yeah.
More of a classic guitar type playing. But yeah, so it's been killing my thumb, which is awesome. I love like getting big calluses on my fingers. It like it feels great to like put in the effort and all of that. So
and, speaking of Steve Harris, we should make him the bass player of the week, since we both came from because there's I wouldn't say controversy surrounding his, but a lot of people think Steve Harris plays with 3 fingers on his right hand, and he technically does, but he uses them as 2 fingers.
Yeah, the ring finger just tags along.
Yeah,
it's 2 brothers. Like, oh, I want to play as well. It's a blur.
Yeah.
Have you seen the interview with Mike Kenny, his bass tech?
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah.
He told Tim Stars there of Tech 21 like that he was trying to convince Steve that you can play faster or more consistent triplets with 3 fingers than with 2. And I was like, no, it doesn't make sense that you can play triplets faster with 3 fingers. What? Do the math.
Yeah, right. No, but it's interesting because you always hear that in discussions online. So, his classic 3-finger gallop, but it's not
it's
a
2 fingers.
Yeah, and it's like his technique is very interesting because it's almost like he's playing slap with his fingers.
Yeah. He bounces on the strings, which kind of makes sense now that I've been sitting down like playing a like 1.5 hour long set, 1.5 minute set during the grind versions. Like 90 minutes of our Maiden tunes. If you play them like the way that I do, which is kind of, I dig in. If you do it like that, it's really hard. It's really fatiguing. You really like need to build up your endurance. Whereas how Steve plays them, like Nico said, he tickles the strings, which kind of makes sense. Like which is really hard as well. You really need to like spend some time with that. I can't do it properly, but
But it's basically like a piano player using like the up force of the keystroke going back to like pedal, and it makes sense because I mean they're all in their 60s as of now, and like playing that, like digging in like that doesn't really work when you're that old.
No. Unless you've like done it for your entire life, like Billy has. I mean, he's been.
Oh, really? He has a hard touch. I never thought.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like crazy hard touch, apparently. Which is why, like, when a lot of guys mimic his settings on their compressors, like it doesn't sound like it. No, because his right hand can crack a coconut. It's like it's crazy.
Interesting.
But again, it has to do with like maintaining muscles and everything. It's like being an athlete, I guess.
Yeah.
Like. It's the same with Rob Halford and Bruce Dickinson. Like they need to maintain their voice and their physique, and it's the same with your hands. You need to maintain them.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say about the bass playing muscles.
Yeah.
We're not going to go into that now, but people know. If you know, you know.
Yep.
But yeah, Steve Harris. Like, do you know the theory of the Harris box? You probably do.
That you do the let's see. Yeah.
That's all you need to know to play Steve Harris bass lines.
Yeah. Totally. And you move them. You don't care about the key. So if you're in E minor, you've got E, A, B, E, and you can move it down to C, and you can still get the F there. It's like, why do you?
It's totally out of key, and it doesn't really matter, but it's because it's like his signature style.
Yeah.
And like the funny thing is, Steve Harris is the main songwriter for Iron Maiden. He's always been, and he writes all the songs on bass first, like everything, like all the riffs for the guitars, like the drum parts, like even the song melodies somehow is. I know Bruce has a lot of say in it now, but like he writes everything on bass, which is very unusual even for bass players.
Yeah, and whistles. He whistles them down to record, or he used to do it. I don't know how he does it these days, but that's. I think Bruce described it as a cheery postman going up the hill when he heard the demo for the Trooper.
Yeah,
which is kind of fun. And I mean, like all things considered, like he's such an amazing songwriter, and the things that he's done with 4 chords.
Yeah,
just the E, C, G, D. It's like. It's crazy. I spent some time with the Sign of the Cross yesterday because we're gonna hopefully pick it up soon for the set in the future. And it's like, it's the same 4 chords essentially.
Yeah.
But it's a whole different song compared to Blood Brothers or The Trooper or what have you. It's like yeah,
absolutely. And like I don't know. Let's talk about our favorite albums. My 2 favorite albums, this. Are Somewhere in Time and Seventh Son, because I like the proggy nature. Because like Steve Harris, he said at heart he's always been like a prog musician. He was inspired a lot by like Genesis and Yes and those kind of bands.
Yeah, and Jethro Tull.
Yeah. But also the punk movement, obviously.
Don't say that to him though.
But I mean, Killers and Iron Maiden, the first 2 albums, they're basically punk rock,
Yeah, totally. Just well played and well produced.
Yeah. And where was I going with this? Favorite albums, like you said, the 4 chords, but then they add the synths on top of that and the guitar synths, and it just changes. Like Heaven Can Wait for like the intro, and it's exactly. And like every time they play it live, the whole crew comes up on stage, and I love it.
Love that.
Like, sing along.
And I actually listened to Seventh Son this morning. I was going to talk to you about that. I listened to the live version from a few years ago. I think it was from Germany or something like that. And Bruce, I prefer the way that he sang it there compared to the live made in England, 88, actually, because I don't know, it suited his like more mature voice now. He really did justice, and like they kind of like they've settled with the tempos, which kind of suits songs like that. Like some songs benefit from like the ADHD overdrive tempo, like Aces High or stuff like that. But this one really like the more laid back tempo, if you will. It really worked with that song. It was just amazing. And and the part, the like, don't try to count that because it's like I mean, there is probably some logic to it if you were to talk to Steve, like how do you think about this like section, but when we try to like figure out, it's like, oh man, like okay, so you added a bar of 3/8 there, okay, cool. But I mean, it works. And that's another example of him like moving the move it down to C instead, like. But I mean, it works, and like if you analyze it music theory wise, you get the mediantic shift there, which really like, I mean, it speaks so dramatically, like sonically, so to speak. But I don't think he doesn't think that. He didn't like, oh, let's go for the a median shift there. No, so but
it's true, because like you see, like E, D, C, and B, those chords are like the 4 main chords, and like the C is obviously a median to E. It's like when you talk about it, you realize how many songs like have those chords, and it's like it's different from the classical triad of like subdominant, dominant, tonic, and that's kind of I guess it's a metal sound. One of the podcasts that I've been on quite extensively, the Maiden A to Z, they talked about Moonchild yesterday, and Jonathan there, he pointed out that the
flat 6. That's like the most metal interval
Yeah.
of them all. And I'm inclined to agree, actually. But yeah, so I mean, we share one of the favorite albums. Seven Son is one of my all-time favorites as well.
Yeah.
However, Brave New World, I think that's like the big number one album for me, because that was like the first one that I really, geeked out to, if you will.
Yeah.
Fell in love with, and there are so many epic songs on that one.
Yeah.
Ghost of the Navigator, Brave New World, Blood Brothers, all of those, and
Out of the Silent Planet.
Yeah.
My favorite. I'm actually in that video. You can see me like briefly in the audience. Yeah, from the stadion in Stockholm.
Oh, really? Oh, shit. That's awesome.
Yeah. And of course, we can't speak about Brave New World without bringing up Kevin Shirley.
No.
Because he is a big part of the fact that Maiden stuck together all these years. Apparently, like his like production and mixing really inspired them to do new stuff.
Yeah, and the way I think the way he approached them, like to play live in the studio as well, and not just do the overdubs and all of that they've been doing for years and years. Because, I mean, their songs really benefit from that. Not time-aligned, quantized stuff that you get from everyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, if Maiden were to do an album with, say, my mind is
Rick Rubin
right now. No, not really. That would be interesting. No, Judas Priest's
Andy.
Andy Sneap. Yeah.
Sneap, yeah.
If they were to do I mean, I'm not saying that Andy Sneap would time align everything, but I know that, like, from listening to Rob Halford's book and stuff like that, he's very meticulous and very like, okay, do it again.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't think that would suit Maiden and like modern production. I don't think they would benefit from all of the things that you can do these days. I know that there is like some drum samples on Senjutsu, and there is also on Brave New World, but like in that sense it works, but like using time alignment and stuff like that, I mean, it wouldn't be right.
Yeah, I agree. And like, also Kevin Shirley, he's one of the few like producers I've actually been able to spot in a mix without knowing. Do you know Mr. Big's What If?
Yeah.
I listened to like first Undertow. Is it Undertow? No, first song.
Yeah, that's on the album.
Yeah. And I said like, wait, this has to be Kevin Shirley, and surely it was. No pun intended.
No.
Actually, way pun intended.
Yeah, way.
Yeah, but like he's also not a perfect guy, because like when he did Train of Thought with Dream Theater, there is a lot of clipping on that album. Does it really matter? No, because it still sounds good. And by the way, my favorite Dream Theater album.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
It's like it's such a cool album, and and it's not oversaturated in terms of like layering.
Yeah.
It's not like quad track guitars.
Yeah.
Maybe there is, but you don't react to them that way. It's not like, oh, it feels live in the room in a way, and and
there's a rawness to the mixes Kevin Shirley does, like, and the bass always gets to take like center stage.
Yeah.
Mayong is really driving like the music forward in that album, because he's actually audible for once,
Yeah. That was when it was with Yamaha, right?
Yes.
When he had,
his final album, I believe. Did he do
Octavarium?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Octavarium as well. He had that RBX thingy with the one big Music Man pickup.
Yeah.
On that one.
I saw them live during the Train of Thought tour, because the album was actually released in Europe before the rest of the world. So they actually toured in Europe before the album was released in the US. And I saw them at Hovet in Stockholm, and the bass sound was just immaculate. It was amazing. That was a Yamaha, the second one.
Yeah. It's kind of funny how many things that Jon Mayong and Billy have in common.
Yeah.
Like in terms of gear, like Yamaha basses,
Pierce,
obviously, and the Pierce, and and I know that Talas was a huge influence on both Mayong and Portnoy back in the days.
If you listen to the first When Dream and Day Unite, like the bass is almost not audible, but it's very much a Billy Sheehan 80s sound, because if you see like a promo material for that record. He had like a Stingray where he put like a mudbucker and a pee pickup in.
Yeah. I think he used that on Images and Words as well, actually. I think he used that business.
If I remember my lore correctly, I think he used a Spectre 4-string on Images and Words.
I need to Google this.
I've seen live footage on him playing the bass solo for Metropolis on a Spectre 4-string.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean...
I think he used various basses, actually.
Probably.
I'm not...
But it's funny, like, how many of your favorite artists kind of blend together like that with producers and everything. Because, like, in my opinion, Dream Theater started sounding poorly when Kevin Shirley left. The last album he did for them was Live at Budokan, which has an amazing live mix. But then they just, like... I don't know if it's the fact that Portnoy left soon after, but they just haven't sounded the same since then, basically.
I mean, I did enjoy the mix on the latest album.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. Andy Sneap again.
Yeah, and that was Andy Sneap. Funny enough.
Yeah.
I have the utmost respect for his work and like the way he does stuff. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway,
should we move on? We've been speaking for a long time without even touching our subjects today.
No, but it's good. I mean, this is the first episode. It's the pilot.
Yeah.
Let's just roll with it. I mean, I'm thinking that the general idea with this podcast is not that it's going to be, fast-paced and clickbaity, if you will. It's going to be more, chillaxed and...
Two Swedish guys joined the podcast. You never believe what happened next.
Two guys from Sweden.
One podcast, two lives, etc.
A lot of cats.
Anyway, we were thinking about doing new gear.
Yeah, new gear, new stuff.
Yes, I think I'll start. So MonoNeon, he's a thing.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah, it's like, regardless of what you think about his style choices, like, I like his colors. I've always liked bright colors, and like I wouldn't wear his style on me personally, but like he just had a signature bass release.
Yeah,
and it looks like a Swedish road worker in the colors. Like literally, that was his inspiration for the colors. I want to look like a road worker. But it's a fantastic bass, and it sounds absolutely amazing. And it's one of the most un-Fender-ish sounding basses, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Fender have been on a roll recently, actually, with like cool new releases in terms of gear.
Yeah.
A lot of like stuff that you wouldn't expect them to release a few years ago.
Yeah, and the MonoNeon bass, it has like the specs are really cool, like the big double jazz humbuckers. Because I'm a humbucker guy when it comes to bass. I like the complex mid-range character they give to a sound, to bass sound, and it's just like it can go anywhere from like very aggressive and harsh to smooth sounding. In that bass, and it's a cool thing that Fender are actually trying new stuff.
Very much so.
Yeah, I mean the old classics will always work. The P bass, the jazz bass, they will always be classics. But it's cool to see that they can evolve.
Yeah, and some like dare to innovate, if you will.
Yeah,
but is it how many frets are it? Yeah.
I think it's 22.
20. Okay. Yeah.
But it's yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was hoping there would be a 24 fret. That would have been really, really cool. I think they've only done like 2 24 fret models or something like that over the years.
The old Stu Ham bass was 24.
Yeah, and I think Victor Bailey signature. Yeah. I think that one was a 24 fret. I'm not gonna.
The problem is they have to mess with the classic jazz bass shape in that case, like extend the cutaway and everything.
Yeah,
because the regular old jazz bass doesn't like allow for that.
No, sadly, but it is what it is.
Yeah, but
I know EBS did some custom cabs for him as well.
Oh,
from MonoNeon, which also looked like,
can imagine.
But like you said, I mean, I would never wear his style, but I really appreciate that he does.
Yeah,
and totally awesome player, outrageously
absolutely
great. amazing time, amazing licks, everything.
Yeah.
It's like he's great, and really cool that he's got a signature bass now.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I might even get one eventually. I like it that much, how it looks and sounds.
Yeah, I mean, go for it.
Yeah,
You're gonna
because like I'm an extroverted guy. Like a lot of bass players just like to stand in the back, grooving with the drummer, and I mean I like that, but I also like to be center stage. You know.
yeah. And you're gonna be noticed with that one.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the Trafikverket called. They want their colors back.
Yeah, exactly.
What else? Darkglass released 2 new amps, like mini versions of their classic microtubes and Alpha Omega amps.
Yeah, and I've demoed them and I've tried them and I've got them, and I got one in front of me actually. Got the Microtubes 200 here on my tiny pedal board. I've got here in front of me, and I mean, it's a really cool practice amp.
Yeah.
And it's pretty loud actually. I mean, I know that the bass channel, they did a video about like, is it loud enough for a big stage?
Yeah.
Yes and no, and I talked about that in a video that I did as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you're gonna use it just for some slight monitoring on stage, and you're relying on the big PA for like the main oomph, then it's gonna work out just fine. However, I wouldn't rely on this only to like fill out the low end on a big ass stage.
Yeah.
But just for, you know, if you got a nice cabinet with it, you're probably gonna hear yourself good enough. And I mean, it's cute. It's really cute.
Yeah. And it's like, for me, someone who just still doesn't have a driver license or a car, like having a small thing that I can bring to, like, because so many times you go to a gig and it's like, oh, we have 3 Marshall half stacks for the guitarist, and here's a direct box for the bass player.
Yeah, here you go.
Thank you, kind sir.
Prepare to suck.
Yeah. Could I also have a cup of coffee, maybe, or is that too much to ask? No.
I can punch you in the face if you like. Oh, thank you.
The last time I had a gig, I had to write, like, we had to sign a contract saying we couldn't appear on stage for 2 weeks before or after the gig.
What?
And also, there was like, I'm a lawyer, and this was like a lawyer contract for a one-time gig. And at the end, they introduced us with the wrong band name.
Holy shit. Can you talk about what it was?
It was a long time ago. It was Hell Bar, I think it was called. I can't remember, but it was like, I don't know.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was a bit embarrassing for us. Just like, so we had to say after our first song, so by the way, this is our name.
Holy shit.
Yeah, but my point was, there wasn't a bass amp.
No.
The classic. So luckily I had brought my Aguilar Tone Hammer 350 with me, so I could get a decent bass tone anyway.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, because like, that's kind of the thing nowadays. Like, big amps are mostly for show and like festival stages and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And like, even the smaller amps, I've got the EBS Radmar 752 now, and it fits in my gig bag on like the outer pocket there, and it's so loud, and it can drive like two 810s if you wanted to.
Nice.
I mean, you don't need more than more power than that. I mean, a tube amp is always going to be a tube amp, and a tube amp is awesome and amazing as long as you got a roadie.
Yeah.
Or 2 roadies.
Yeah.
However, like for the types of gig that I do, and I did quite a few festival gigs this summer with a lot of different bands, and I never dreamt of bringing a tube amp along with me. It never made sense to like, oh, I'm gonna rent an SVT rig and just go for it. Like, no.
Right. Because usually the backline on those kind of gigs is already an Ampeg SVT, so
exactly. Or quite often these days here in Sweden, EBS stuff, which I really like, and it was the case in Denmark as well, which was a good thing because I like EBS a lot. And to segue back to the 200 series, one of the things that a lot of us YouTubers reacted to is the fact that the DI output is just a clean DI and not the amp tone, which I don't know why.
That is kind of That is actually kind of a letdown to me.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I guess there is a reason, and I'm guessing that it's catered towards being a practice amp, and that's why they chose to do so.
Yeah.
It kind of bummed me out, to be honest with you.
Because
I mean, you got if you use the headphone output, you get you actually get the
Cabsim?
full you get a Cabsim and the full experience.
Yeah.
I guess you could like do some DI box magic with that, but yeah,
That seems like a missed opportunity to me. Because we have this as a topic. We'll be revisiting this topic later with Cabsim and everything.
Yeah.
But it's a cool thing. And you know me, I've been speaking about I want an X amp, X series amp. That's all I'm waiting for. And I'll be like Fry in Futurama. Shut up and take my money.
Yeah,
basically.
I totally get that.
I tried when I was playing with a lot of pedals. I had both a Alpha Omega and an X, and I used them both at the same time. That was like such a brutal bass tone.
And like I've used the X quite a lot as well, and that's the way that I find it sounds better.
Yeah,
or the best if you place it before a regular, if you will, distortion circuit.
Yeah.
It kind of smooths things out a bit and makes it sound more, I don't know, organic.
Yeah.
Whereas just the X sounds more a bit sterile.
Yeah.
And some players love that, and it works great for their tone. For me, I kind of like the more organic way. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and it worked great through my Aguilar tone hammer. Like that has a warm, fuzzy bass tone.
Yeah.
And speaking of fuzz.
Yeah, speaking of fuzz. What the fuzz?
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
We got the new dual fuzz engine also from Darkglass, which is released this past Tuesday, November 29th.
Interesting.
And I got the opportunity to demo it on my YouTube channel, and yeah, I mean, I've never been a fuzz guy, never, but this one is really cool.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
I like it.
It's cute.
Yeah.
Also, they're going for cute.
Yeah. Well, I like the design. It's very simple and clean.
Yeah, and for this one, it really works.
Yeah.
Like, because the original one had 4 controls. You had the blend, the level, duality, and filter.
Yeah.
And you've got level and duality on the top, so you can go between the different
Nice.
on the. So yeah, you got access to that and the level control as well. So yeah, really cool fuzz. And yeah, great to see it being brought back. I know that a lot of players really enjoyed the duality. Oh, you're gonna kill me now. Your favorite bass player from Between the
Dan
Road
Briggs.
And,
I was literally about to talk about that. Yes.
Yeah. He's a huge advocate for that one, and quite a few players have really asked for this one, like a revival, if you will, of the duality. So it's fun to see it being brought back, and if you're in the market for a fuzz, go check it out.
He uses it at the end of Telos.
Oh.
If like he even adjusts it in real time live. It's kind of cool.
That's a
I met him before the gig 3 years ago. Like 45 minutes before the gig, it's like everything is nervous, and he actually stopped to talk bass with me. He's such a nice guy, really cool guy. Like you know me, I'm like I like my bass tone clean, but with a slight edge of like drive.
Yeah.
Like I've never had much of a use for fuzz, but like for the people that use fuzz, I think the dualities are top notch.
Yeah, totally. And if you use it with an octaver and a chorus, which I've got set up here, you got the
nice. Like space bass.
Yeah, you can really get the space bass there. So I totally see the appeal of fuzz pedals, and maybe I'll add it to my pedal board and just have it for the neck pickup of my basses, because
Nice.
I mean, it's good to try new things.
Yeah,
I guess.
absolutely. New things. Two
yeah.
Notes. They have a new bass preamp coming out called ReVolt.
Yeah, it's been delayed quite a bit, and as far as I know, they're about to start shipping the demo samples soon,
Nice.
which is great. I've got one coming in, so I'm pretty excited to see what it sounds like. I mean, Two Notes have done some stellar stuff over the years. The Cabsim, amazing Cabsim unit, and just really great stuff. The what's it called? The Le Bass was also really cool preamp. I know Gustav Hjelm enjoys that one. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a 3-channel or like 3-tone pedal, which is always cool.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and it's modeled on an Ampeg SVT, a Marshall Super Bass, and a Fender Bassman, I believe, wasn't it? Maybe not. But it has like the specs are really intriguing to me, because it has like a classic clean channel, it has a vintage dirt channel, and it has like a modern drive thing going on. And it has a proper tube that gets fed. They say 200 volts. I'm a little bit skeptical to this, because 200 volts to a pedal that size could be. I'm sure it'll be fine, but that takes a lot of capacitors, considering it's like a 12-volt DC in. So
but I mean, knowing them, they probably have a way to figure it out, because I mean, because it's Two Notes. I mean, they've done they did the capture and all that, so they know their way around high voltage stuff and high impedance stuff. So
it's cool.
Yeah, that's usually like a huge part of, every time I see a tube in a pedal, it's like, is it just for show?
Right.
Is it just an LED lighting up, or is it actually being fed some actual current, so to speak? So
and let's speak about that for a while, like tube versus, and a lot of people like what I get from tubes. I'm a big tube amp guy, even though I don't have a car or driver's license, but that harmonic breakup, like it's not necessarily about the drive, like pure distortion. It's like even at clean levels, when you drive them, like push them, you get that kind of, you get like a sweeter frequency response in some way.
The natural compression of the tubes, I guess you could call it. I recall my first time playing that. It was outdoors up in my home village. I was playing my old Fender P63 through an Ampeg full stack, and I was like, this feels amazing. That's like a huge part of like tube amps, especially for tones like that. It really works. For bass tones that are more vintage sounding, if you will. However, if you use a 5-string, I really prefer solid state actually, because there is more low end information in those lower frequencies. That, I mean, it's just physics. And
it is.
And the fact that a 5-string bass didn't exist when the first SVT was announced, so to speak.
And let's segue that to, speaking of Cabsim and everything, we talked about this previously, because like you said, an old like vintage amp, it doesn't really have the frequency information for a 5-string, right?
No,
it's basically like, and that's also why we like having different amps, because the amps, they take away the information in bass you don't need, right? If that makes sense. Like, I'll start the conversation by the last time I was in a professional studio. I brought my amp with me because I wanted to have a DI sound, because I like that DI sound, and like that's the sound I'm comfortable with. But the producer was like, no, you gotta have a clean full range signal. And I was like, okay, like you're the expert, I'll try your thing. But the thing is, in the headphones, I just got all this mishmash of like different frequencies I didn't want. And it sounded nothing like me. It sounded nothing like the bass tone I strive for. So I was very uncomfortable. And like I get the point of having like a clean signal, but a clean signal is one thing. A full range signal is something else, because there's so much information past, what is it, 1500 hertz in bass tones that isn't really needed.
No, exactly. I mean, I usually high cut my bass tones at around 1900 hertz.
Yeah.
Just cut most of it away, no matter what tone I'm going for. I mean, I'm not a big slap and hi-fi tone guy, but I mean, usually you don't need that information, because it's gonna be cymbals and guitars and vocal. Like there's gonna be so much information there.
Absolutely.
Anyways, and and the thing about like running just a clean DI, I mean uncompressed and unfiltered and all of that, like that's torture.
Yeah.
And especially if it's not a good clean DI sound, you know. I mean, if you got a really hi-fi DI box that, you know, does it justice, then I mean, I can see the point of recording and playing through that, because you can hear every nuance. But I mean, in a band setting, if you're recording with a band, I mean, no way. I always. That's why I'm like a huge pedalboard guy, because I always have my tone with me. I'm not relying on amps for much of the tone shaping. Actually, I'm usually like just using them as clean power to power the tone that I'm feeding from my quad cortex or whatever I'm running at the moment. And to segue into another aspect of this, like the full range aspect of digital, I guess I've been talking about this before, that one of the reasons why people think that, oh, it sounds digital, it's because you get the full range. Yeah. Because digital units, they want to represent 20 to 20,000. They want to do that, because that's okay. Humans can hear this, so let's give them that. Whereas, you know, a mic'd up SVT, if you will, there is no information around those. I mean, there's only hiss. There is like, I mean, there is some information, but it's not needed. Yeah, I guess you could say.
And it's also about giving like the front of house guy like a good signal to work with, you know, because if the front of house gets a bass signal that's also like you say like goes into the cymbals or the vocals or the piano, anything, it'll be a mess. And like take the Bergantino digital amp series, like the Forte, the B amp, they all have like high pass and low pass filters to use like all the time, because like so many live shows you go to, like the bass is just down there with a kick drum. And here's a newsflash: they don't occupy the same sonic space, or they don't even have the same function in that case. And like I was at Pub Anchor recently, and like the guitar sounded great. They were using Kemper profilers. The drums sounded great. The vocals sounded great, but the bass was just like, it was basically like a slow day at a lake where the waves were washing up on the shore. That kind of feeling, you know. Like no definition, no punch, no nothing, because there was all like down below like 60 hertz or something.
I mean, it always breaks my heart when I hear tones like that, and especially if there's like a bass player who really cares about his or her tone and has brought, you know, a nice rig or a nice pedal board and everything. It's like, no, we're just going to use a clean DI. I mean, I even added a sticker to my wireless unit that says not a clean DI because at first I was like, oh, I'm going to write clean DI here. And I told it to Andreas Passmark and Hogge and those guys who are part of the Swedish Protobass community, and they were like, no, don't do that. Please don't do that.
Because that's basically what a Cabsim does for a sound. Like a physical cabinet, it removes like some of those resonant peaks. It removes like some of the information below. Like me, I'm like, I can't stand an open cab. I need to have a sealed cab, because I find that the open, like in general, open cabs have that loose kind of low end that I don't want in my sound.
Flubby.
Flubby. It's like, and like I want focus, I want mid-range, like I want to cut through. But yeah, that's basically like, I mean, I know it's in the word cab simulator or simulation, but that's why you want that kind of stuff in a DI from a bass amp or from a pedal, because it gives like the front of house guy a proper bass tone to work with.
Yeah.
You don't have to like EQ it in a certain way. It's just there already. And especially like you, when you use a lot of distortion, it's like alpha and omega. You need to have a Cabsim, because distortion without a high pass or low pass, just yeah.
Yeah, I mean the tone that you hear right now is through the Microtroopers Infinity, and I got a Cabsim there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bypass it just for the listeners now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna bypass it. And I mean, it works, but if I kick on the fuzz, yeah,
yeah, that's like
so,
yeah.
So here's what it's gonna sound like with the Cabsim.
Yeah,
much better.
Yeah. And again, like even in a mix, some like the producer in the studio said like, oh, but in the mix I want to have a full range because it'll stand out better. Like, but you forced me to play with a setting, even forced me to play with a setting on my bass I wasn't comfortable with. Like all neck pickup. Like I usually play dead center with both pickups.
Yeah.
To get that kind of like punch and like fullness. But it was like basically the bass sounded like sinus tone, you know.
Yeah. Did you provide him with like, here's what we want to sound like?
Yeah, absolutely. I showed him before I even plugged in my Aguilar amps. So like, this is how I want to sound. But no, it'll be much better, and we can reamp and blah blah blah. And then I started like talking with some producers and mixers online after that. Like, is this what he should have done? And they were all on my side. It's like, no. The role of the producer and engineer is to make the bass player comfortable.
Yeah, make the entire band comfortable and bring out the best in them.
Yeah.
Not to go for his or her vision of like, this is how a great album should sound like.
To be fair, the studio is a school as well. So I think a lot of the teacher aspect came out in the engineer.
Yeah, probably. Then again, I mean, to segue back to Steve Harris and our Maiden, like on the first album, the producer there, Will, he told Steve to play with a pick instead.
Oh yeah, I heard. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I mean, and if you listen to the tone on that album compared it to Killers and a number of the beats, you can really hear like, okay, here's what it was supposed to sound like on Killers, and and
the producer was never heard from again.
No. He wasn't. I mean, he didn't even get to say in. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't alive at the time, but he didn't get a say in the documentary, the early days.
Yeah. But also, like you said, playing with a pick Cabsim is hugely important, because a lot of the pick attack that like makes the sound like stand out, like the clickiness, it makes so much more sense from a cab, you know.
Yeah.
Because you can like you just demonstrated, you get like if you get all those high range frequencies in a fuzz, it just sounds like a broken radio.
Yeah, terrible. Sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, he's still alive. Will Malone turned 70 this year.
Interesting.
I mean, he's got a nice resume. Todd Rundgren, Black Sabbath, actually. I think, Depeche Mode.
Interesting.
So, yeah. But yeah, he didn't get much love after the album.
Interesting. That's a good segue to another topic I had about Vigier. You know, the bass manufacturer from France. Geezer from Sabbath played them on the Dehumanizer albums and tour, and Roger Glover from Deep Purple obviously plays them. And I saw Deep Purple live many years ago, like 25 years ago almost. And he was using a bass that sounded so amazing. I had to know what bass it was, and it was a Vigier.
Doesn't Bumblefoot play one?
Yeah. They have the fretless steel fretboard guitars, the Excalibur. And I think Guthrie Govan plays one as well.
Yeah.
So it's just sad, like a really amazing French bass brand, like not very well known, but they make amazing quality basses for not that expensive.
No.
And I'm actually thinking of nabbing one of the last basses being produced next year.
Sounds like a good.
Yeah.
Why are they going? Is it like?
I think just like I think the guy who does them wants to quit, basically.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's just better that way. call it quits and like leave the brand as something good, or like like keep the name with its dignity instead of letting it go to someone else who drags it in the dirt, like the way that happened with Fender back in like the mid 60s,
or Tobias basses.
So many so.
But that's a nice segue, Guthrie Govan, because I want to talk a bit about timing and groove and what it actually is.
Yeah, let's do that.
Timing and groove in music, and specifically bass playing. We were talking about Guthrie Govan before, and I think I would honestly say, if you ask me who's the world's greatest guitar player, I would say Guthrie Govan every time.
Yeah, he's up there for me as well.
And he's like the kind of player. Not only does he combine like ingenuity and imagination with the most blendingly technical skills you've ever seen, he also has the timing that is so like, it's so
impeccable.
funky. Yeah, it's like he's ever so slightly behind the beat, and that what makes it groove so much. Yeah. And like groove and timing is obviously a very personal thing, right? It's not easy to define. It's quite abstract, but like when you hear something that grooves, it grooves.
Yeah, and as bass players, I think we are very much dependent on what drummer we are playing with.
Yeah,
and that I have this theory that everyone has a certain way of treating time.
Yeah,
every human being has a timing DNA or fingerprint, if you will.
Yeah,
and I think that's why some bands never sound quite right together, because the drummer and the bass player are treating time differently.
Yeah.
Whereas some bands, like for instance Iron Maiden, both Steve and Nico have been treating time the same way throughout the years. Whereas with Clive, you could hear a different type of like timing, because he was more laid back and Steve was always pushing him.
No.
I'm not saying that they were out of time with each other, but there was a different type of groove there.
Yeah.
And I think that's like hugely important in terms of groove.
Absolutely.
And
it's interesting you say that, because the band I was previously in for almost 10 years, like we evolved together, the drummer and I, like we changed how we play certain songs and stuff, like from how we play, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like timing and groove is like, take someone like Mike Portnoy, for example. We discussed this a lot. One of the most amazing drummers in the world, obviously. Fantastic technical skills, but he's also like a groover when he wants to. He's always, again, slightly behind the beat. He's like a bit laid back in that sense, but that's what gives it character,
Yeah, and he has his imperfections in a way. I mean, I'm not saying that in the way that he sucks. It's like you can hear the human element in his playing.
Absolutely.
Whereas Mike Mangini is all close to flawless in terms of technique, and he's as precise as the atomic clock, essentially. And I think, to me, that's why I've lost interest in Dream Theater over the years, and why I've gravitated towards more the stuff that Sons of Apollo and such are doing, because I like that type of groove. It's the same, I think, with Haken.
Yeah.
Actually.
Ray Hearn.
Ray. Yeah, I mean, he's got an amazing sense of groove.
Yeah.
And maybe it has to do with him being a tuba player. I don't know.
Oh yeah, he's the one who plays the tuba on Celestial Elixir. Yeah.
I think he actually majored in the tuba.
Nice.
At music college. So. I mean,
that makes so much sense when you say it, because now I think back to his drumming. Yeah, it's kind of melodical in a way, his drumming.
Yeah, totally, and you can hear, he's a very melodic player. He's not just beat.
Yeah.
I think he thinks melodies and follows the melodies in a way.
Absolutely. Just listen to like Nightingale, the latest single. It absolutely follows the melody. And like take another example, like Steve Jordan and Pino Palladino when they play with John Mayer. I mean that rhythm section is just like there's something like otherworldly when you have a bass player and a drummer that just lock together, you know.
Yeah, it's you can't beat that.
Yeah.
That's like I think the two most important members of any band are the singer and the drummer.
Yeah.
If you have a great drummer and a great singer, then it's fine. Then you're you're good to go. And I'm willing to die on this hill because I really think so.
Yeah.
Because all of the great bands that you're like, oh, they're amazing. They always have great drummers and great singers because that's what moves people.
Yeah.
The singer is the singer, which is like the vocal connection to the audience, and the drummer is the one that makes them move.
Yep.
And then, I mean, if you have an amazing guitar player, great. But if the amazing guitar player is accompanied by a incompetent drummer and or a lousy singer, then it's gonna drag the whole experience down. So
Absolutely.
I think, so going back to like timing and groove, I think us as bass players, we are very much dependent on what drummer we are playing with. And I mean, of course you can be an amazing bass player on your own and have a great groove.
Yeah.
I myself, I never I never place myself in that situation when I need to.
Right.
I need to hold down a groove for too long on my own. It's like
Yeah.
that's always nerve-wracking. And that's not my style either. I'm a metal and rock player, so I never find myself doing doing the 10-hour slap breaks.
Yeah.
You get the point.
I do. Yeah. But then there are obviously some bass players who can combine that great sense of groove with that like solo technicability, like Michael Manring, for instance.
Yeah.
He can make like emotional, provocative pieces like The Enormous Room. But then he has like funky stuff like Monkey Businessman and stuff, and it's just like, where does this guy come from? He's an alien, you know.
He's unbelievable, and it's the same with Billy. Billy Sheehan, because everyone's like, oh, he's only about playing fast, and playing a lot of notes. Well, have you listened to any of the Mr. Big songs?
Yeah.
Like, listen to Be With You.
Yeah.
There is no crazy soloing going on there. It's a pop song, and that's
all the way up.
Yeah.
I love that song. It's cheesy as fuck, but I love it.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't fight the cheese.
Right.
I mean, if it's cheesy, then it means that it's good.
Yeah.
I guess you could say. I mean,
it provokes emotion. That's for sure.
I mean, that's why I love Toto so much, because I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's so cheesy. It's only about girls," and but
that's what life is about.
Yeah, it's about love. That's all you need.
Yeah. Speaking of great rhythm sections, the Porcaro brothers.
Oh God, amazing.
And they're all gone now, sadly.
Yeah, except for Steve.
Oh, he's still alive. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the keyboard brother. I hope so. I need to.
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, like even though David Hungate did a great job, he's the one who plays on Rosanna for instance, like Mike Porcaro. Like, speaking of steady bass players with like a sense of groove, he never played anything that was out of style or extra anything. He just supported the songs.
Yes, the
yeah.
That one. Don't Share My Heart, and the the Amsterdam live of Africa when I did a solo. Like, holy shit, amazing.
So to cap this off, timing and groove is something very personal, but when you hear it, you know it. And having the basis of a good bass player that knows how to interact with the drummer, then you're already like 90% there.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you also need to I don't know, you need to like feel the music. And it's funny because so many people think that, oh, you're educated on music, you can't have a groove or timing, like the classic cliche, you know.
Yeah,
and it's like, but there's like music theory and music practice, they're not opposites to each other, they're part of a whole. You know.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you can't speak with emotion because you know how to read.
Yeah. Right. It makes as much sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense these strange times.
Anyway.
So this has been, great, it's another bass podcast.
Yep.
Episode 1, season 1. So we're aiming at doing this, I guess, every third week or so, something like that.
Yep.
We are drawing close to the end of 2022. So I guess the next one is going to be a end of year.
Yeah, maybe like a Christmas, New Year's thing. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's always good to start off with a Christmas special.
Right.
Everybody
like
loves
the
a Christmas special. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
Boys.
Yeah, but no dogs in here, only cats.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, mine's been sleeping here.
Well, we're hoping to get some interesting guests to have on the podcast as well. So be on the lookout for it. But this has been over an hour of two dudes just speaking about bass.
Yeah.
I hope you liked it.
Yeah, me too. So thank you, Sam.
Yeah, thank you, Erik.
Until next time.
Until next time. Bye.